From calling Kamaru out multiple times to lining himself up once again for a fight, here's what's up between Stephen Thompson and the Nigerian Nightmare. Starting with, Thompson's ready to welcome Usman back after a couple of setbacks. Usman is like a wounded lion right now. It was the first time in his UFC career that he lost back-to-back fights. And the former welterweight title challenger Stephen Thompson says he's interested in the idea of fighting Usman. Kamaru's latest loss against Edwards at UFC 286 was a huge dent in his legacy. And now it seems like a title shot is far away from him. That's the reason why he has decided to rest for now and spend some time with his family. But as soon as Kamaru will be ready to step back into the octagon, Stephen will be waiting for him. However, the idea of it all started on Twitter when a fan pitched Stephen the idea of taking on Usman. And surprisingly, Thompson was open to the idea. He replied to that tweet saying, 100%. Well, this only means one thing. He's up for a showdown. But didn't Thompson say something else about his potential opponents a while back? Wonderboy said he isn't interested in fighting wrestling heavy fighters. Yeah, that's right. This is what he said when he was asked about his next fight. He actually had the opportunity to fight the rising Shavkat Rakhmonov last year, but turned it down for this very reason. After losing 2 straight decision fights against Gilbert Burns and Belal Muhammad, he said he didn't want to fight a grappler. He wants to face someone who will stay on the feet and trade some shots with him. And he didn't hold back while admitting that he isn't that good at wrestling it out. Plus, he also mentioned that he wants to work on his wrestling first before facing another wrestler. So, he decided to take on Kevin Holland next. And guess what? Wonderboy won via TKO. But still, after openly admitting that he didn't want to fight grapplers, he's willing to make an exception for Kamaru. Why? 'Cause a fight between the two makes sense for both of them. Both of them aren't even close to a title fight at this point in their careers. The closest guys to a title fight are probably Gilbert Burns and Belal Muhammad. And we all know what Kamaru wants. He wants that black belt at all costs. Despite losing 2 big fights, he's confident that he'll get back to winning ways and finally get that title fight he's looking for. It doesn't matter if he has to fight Edwards for a 4th time or it's against someone else. But right now, a fight against Thompson would be a good stepping stone for him. Because, first of all, he needs to get rid of that losing streak that's looming over his head. Then, he can think about a title fight. Plus, the two have never ever fought before. I mean, they would've if Usman still was the champion, but that isn't the case now. And after their recent performances, this is the fight that makes the most sense for both of them. Yes, Thompson's coming off a win, but his record hasn't been that good. Out of his last 8 fights, he has only won 4. On the other hand, taking on big guys isn't a problem for the Nigerian Nightmare. He's faced some tough fellas in the welterweight division and won. Obviously, except for Stephen. And now's the time for him to change that. Plus, this isn't the first time a fight between the two is being talked about. Stephen Thompson called Usman out in 2021. Yes, he did it in 2021 as well. And he did it multiple times, but nothing happened. Thompson tried very hard to reach the level and get himself ready for a title fight, but maybe Usman wasn't interested in fighting him. Thompson does have the experience though. He fought twice for the welterweight title in his career. The first was in 2016 at UFC 205, and the second was in 2017 at UFC 209. Unfortunately, he failed both times. The one in 2016 ended in a majority draw, and in 2017, Woodley won via decision after 2 long years. In 2023, this might be the time when this fight could actually become a real possibility. Plus, Thompson was actually rooting for Kamaru to win at UFC 286. But I don't think this fight would have happened if Usman became the champion. I've told you about Stephen's recent form. Do you really think these kinds of stats deserve a title shot? I don't. But good for him that Kamaru didn't retain his belt, or else Thompson would have to wait a couple more years to fight him. So, when could it happen? Well, it all depends on Usman's recovery. While there's still nothing certain about whether this fight's even going to happen, I can guarantee you one thing. It's gonna happen sooner rather than later. Yeah, you heard it right. The Nigerian Nightmare wants to recover as quickly as possible. Everything indicated that after his loss at UFC 286, Usman will retire from the sport. But that isn't happening anytime soon. Yes, he has to deal with a lot of things physically in his body. I mean, he's no spring chicken. He's 35 years old. His knee issues and hand injuries aren't hidden from anyone, and only he knows what else is going on. But he isn't backing down and is eager to return soon. After failing to recapture his throne at UFC 286, Usman said this: "I'm not done. I'll see him again." I don't think he's gonna see Leon anytime soon though. For now, he needs to keep his head down and get ready for a fight against Wonderboy, cause he's eagerly waiting to fight the former champion. Now that we've talked all about the possibility of the fight, I think it's a good time to talk about this one thing as well. Yep, the predictions if the fight were to happen. Whoa, now this is an interesting one. Considering the form these two are in, it feels like it would end in a draw. But if I had to pick a winner, I'd say Kamaru Usman without a doubt. No matter how bad Usman's form is or how long his current losing streak is, there's no chance that Wonderboy beats Kamaru. It's as simple as that. Before the two losses, Usman was the #1 pound-for-pound MMA fighter in the world. And you won't find Stephen Thompson in the top 15 of those rankings. If the fight did happen a few years ago, maybe then things would have been different. Back when Stephen was in his prime, he might have edged a victory against Kamaru. Even then, it would have been pretty much impossible for him. I mean, he was basically in his prime when he fought twice for the welterweight championship. And no matter what he tried, he just couldn't get the better of Woodley. And there's no reason for us to believe that he could somehow defeat Kamaru now. Why? Cause Wonderboy is now getting older and older. He's 40 now. 5 years older than Usman and nowhere near his prime. I'm not taking anything away from Thompson. He was a great fighter. Walks his way into the list of top 10 welterweights of all time. But for someone who couldn't beat Woodley in his prime, it's almost impossible to beat Usman at 40 years of age. Usman can do everything that Woodley could do. But there's one difference. He does everything better than Woodley. Yes, it's gonna be a big event, and will sell like crazy. But as of now, I see only one winner in this one. And that's Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman. That's all from me on Stephen Thompson's eagerness to fight against Kamaru Usman.